Hello and welcome to the Newtown Big Dreams podcast. I am your host, Luke Menkes, and today I am with Brett Walder from Brett and Buddies Moving Company, a company that he started 8 years ago at the age of 21. Brett's mother is a well-known local realtor, and she taught Brett the key skills of outstanding customer service and hard work. The day is not over until the job is done and your customer is so happy that they can't wait to give you referrals and 5-star reviews. So today we're going to talk to Brett about the challenges with starting a brand new business from scratch with no prior experience, building a customer base out of nothing, growing the business, dealing with employee issues, and how to be efficient without injuring yourself, how to create and provide complementary services to leverage your assets and grow your business. And we also talk about what it was like moving to a new city as a young person and building a life here. Brett says that Kelowna is a fantastic place to grow up and a fantastic community, which has enabled him to pursue building this business around helping people through transitional points in their lives. Because when you move, that is one of the most stressful things that a person can go through. So it's all about getting the job done right and excellent customer service. Brett moved to Kelowna when he's 5 years old, and we've known each other mostly through text. Brett does a lot of marketing through text, so I want to ask him about that.
Yes.
Do you remember the story, Brett, of when you came to Kelowna when you were 5?
Kind of, actually, vaguely. My parents moved here from Saskatoon, and we came out here. Obviously, I was 5 years old, so my memories are limited, but I got here right in time to start going to kindergarten at North Glenmore Elementary School. And I grew up in that neighborhood from then until I was 17. And I remember being kind of blown away because, all the mountains and all the nature and all these things. And my dad was wanting to start kind of a new life for himself away from his family and gain some independence. And we got to go boating all the time, and it seemed like we were living in paradise. And actually, I also have memories of us living. Before we moved here, we lived at the campground. I want to say KVR campground, or we lived there for like 3 weeks, and it's out in the Rockies. And we lived there for like 3 weeks, and I remember that quite vividly, actually.
So where did you come from? Which town?
Which town? Near Saskatoon? Yeah, we were in most of my family is out in Hanley, Saskatchewan, and that's my mom's side, and my dad's side was in other small towns out there in like Yorkton and Churchbridge and areas. But we all kind of met up in Saskatoon when we would go there. It seemed to be the central point, or whatever, So
your dad, when you were 5, decided to move to Kelowna, and do you know why he chose Kelowna out of all the great cities?
Yeah. He thought it was the golden place. Like, he is a hardworking guy, and he grew up kind of working with he had brothers that were way older than him, and he was kind of working for them his whole life, and he had this dream to go out on his own and start his own thing, and he always thought that Kelowna or the Okanagan, was this golden opportunity, a place where, everything is really, just a different environment. He had grown up in the same place and done the same stuff, and I think he wanted to start fresh and start new, and so he chose to come to Kelowna, and we've been here ever since, and it's changed a lot for sure as well.
Yeah. Well, I always love asking that question because most of the people that I interview came from somewhere else, or at least their parents did.
Right.
So I'm always curious to know why they chose Kelowna, right?
Totally.
So that's a great story. The city has changed a lot. Yeah. Tell us how you've noticed the city has changed.
Well, okay, where do I start? Like when we moved here, we moved to Applebrook in North Glenmore and lived in a really nice, like a residential neighborhood. And one way that it's changed is, I mean, that was, I'm going to be 28, and that was when I was 5, so that was a long time ago. But just the development and the amount of, bigger like buildings, bigger apartments, townhomes, things like that are popping up, is one way that it's certainly grown. Like if you look at North Glenmore, where I grew up and used to run around with my friends and stuff, it's like it's just looks very different now. There's a lot more buildings there, a lot more going on, and a lot more growth. So one way that I think it's changed a lot, in my opinion, is there's probably more opportunity now than I would say that there was then. There's lots of people having projects and job opportunities to make money. And I think at least I know when I was like a teenager, and I mean how accurate was our idea of what was going on then, I don't know, but people had this idea that it was hard to make it work here, like to make a living here, you know what I mean? And I respect that, but I don't agree with that. I think it's a great place to make something happen for yourself. I think my dad set that example, and I followed suit, trying to follow suit.
That's awesome. I heard the same thing when I moved here 8 years ago, almost 9 years ago now. It's hard to believe. Time flies. But people said, it's really tough to make a living there. It's basically tourist based, and unless you work at a winery, like there's no work. And I always believe like you make your own. You can find things. But I also think that in the last decade, the city has grown up quite a bit. Like there's a lot more industry, there's a lot more different businesses, a lot of tech business, and a lot of great things happening.
One thing that I really have grown to appreciate about this place is that I think it's a great place to, if you have an idea and you want to make it happen for yourself, I think there's a lot of people here who are willing to give you a chance. A lot of people here who are willing to, like, they respect the hustle that you're putting out there. And in my experience, I've had lots of people just give me a shot, with my moving business, and it's now and then you gain confidence, and then you gain traction, and it all, and I don't know if it's the same if like you lived in Vancouver or whatever. I don't know if there would be if the community would be as receptive to that. So it's really great in that way. Yeah.
Having lived in big cities, people, it's not that they're rude. It's just that we meet so many thousands of people. It's hard to remember people and build that kind of personal relationship, right?
Yeah.
So you started Brett and Buddies Moving 7 years ago.
Yes, I did.
And you're 28 now, so you were quite young. What did you do before starting that business?
For sure. So a couple things. When I graduated high school, I went to college and I got a criminal social justice diploma.
Wow.
And I also got I worked towards a human service work diploma, which I actually didn't quite finish because I only needed the one to get the job. So from there, I actually got into support work. And I was doing that for 2.5 years, and I was working with different kids with developmental disabilities and things of that nature. I worked for a couple different agencies. I worked with kids with autism, kids with Down syndrome, things of that nature. And I did that right out of high school, and I got into college, and then so I would have been like 22, 23 when I started that job. And got into it, and it's a great job. I over time, I was not feeling like it was the right fit for me. I had a lot of personal stuff going on with my family as well, and I just didn't really have the mental energy to do that. So that's what I chose when I kind of made the decision to go full time into my moving business, because at the time it was a side hustle.
Right.
And I just kind of realized that it would probably be I would rather spend my time doing that. And so that was my transition before moving, and then before that I had all sorts of jobs. I worked at bars, I worked at Costco, I worked at Scandia, I worked at movie theaters. I was never afraid to have multiple jobs, and I was never afraid to quit a job if I didn't think it was a good fit. I would just go, and I would do it the right way, but I would just make the decision to move on.
Right. Yeah. So obviously to do something full time, it's got to be successful. It's got to keep you busy. How did you make that transition as far as getting enough clients? Like,
Absolutely.
Do you remember your first client with the moving?
I do. Yeah.
Tell us that story.
Okay, so one move that sticks out in my head, and it's kind of interesting because it feels like it was a long time ago now, and the company is called Brett and Buddies, and the reason that we called it that was when I was like, 22 or whatever, my mom is a realtor in town here. So she works for Century 21. Her name's Kim Walder. So how so how it started was with, she came up to me and was like, hey, I have these clients that need help moving. Can you help them out? And I got my buddies together because we all needed some side money or whatever. And that's how that's how the name came to fruition. And, it didn't work out. The buddies didn't like the work. They didn't want to do it. And that's fine. You know what I mean? It is hard work. It takes it's meticulous, and it takes a lot of practice to minimize, things that can go wrong. But anyway, so one job that I remember quite vividly was, there's a picture on my page of we went out for dinner after the move with these two. They were probably 70 years old, and they were these little ladies who had come here from Japan or China or something like that, and spoke limited English or whatever, and they were super, super nice. And we went to do this job, me and my one friend Dane, and we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. And we got to this apartment, and they had all of this furniture that they had imported from like Vietnam or Indonesia or something, and it was huge. It was like way bigger than any furniture that you would get here. And and we're going, holy crap, how are we going to move this? How are we going to get it through the doors? A
lot of solid wood.
Yeah, too? It had like lions carved into it. It was beautiful, very like super expensive stuff, but it was not built to the codes of the buildings that are here. You know what I mean? And it was a ridiculous, like a really challenging time for us. We had to disassemble it to a degree to put it on its side just to get it through the doorways, and we go, holy crap, what are we getting ourselves into? And it was a long day. It was like a 14-hour day, and you can see there's a picture that I still use on my website of us sitting with these two ladies because they took us out for dinner after. So that was a good job. That was one that kind of sticks out in my head because it was one of the first jobs that really challenged me, really challenged us, and I enjoyed it. Like, it was overwhelming, totally overwhelming, because you're kind of like, oh my goodness. But when you're done, that picture is significant for me because we felt that sense of accomplishment after the job was done, right? And, and they were super happy.
When you're getting into it, it's like, how the hell are we going to get through this?
Yeah,
and you don't know, and I know that feeling, just like being nervous, like you're not going to be able to. But once you get it done, man, that's an awesome.
Yeah, and I love that, and that's part of what keeps me coming back. Is now we're taking on big jobs like that all the time, and they're easier now because we've got more. I've just got more practice or whatever. But it's always that same feeling for the client when they think that it's when they think that it's an overwhelming amount of work. And then they don't have to do much, and they watch it get done. You know what I mean? And you watch this relief come over them as the day goes on, and that's sweet to be able to provide that. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of psychological stuff going on with moving, I think, too. Like, they're going through, no matter what, they're going through some sort of a transition. You know what I mean? And it's a lot of sentimental stuff, and you really get to know people in a short amount of time when you go into their house and you see how they live, you see what's important to them. You see a lot. You really get to know them quick in that way.
So you get to see all their items, all their personal stuff, right? Artwork and
exactly, what they're into and how they live and lots of stuff. So it's definitely it's an interesting, very, very personal that way, kind of, for a short amount of time, but it's fun, and it's a good way it's a great, in terms of networking, I think the moving business is amazing because you do get to know them fairly well in a short amount of time, and they're very thankful, you know what I mean, once as long as all goes well and you do your best, you always do your best,
For sure.
So
For sure. Do most of your jobs involve helping the people pack and unpack, or just picking up boxes and furniture and
we do offer the packing services. It's offered in addition to the moving. So generally people, because we charge hourly is how our price points are laid out. So I'll go in and I'll do a quote and I'll say, we're going to bring 5 guys and we're going to bring our truck and this is our hourly rate and it's going to take us this long. And I'm usually pretty spot on with those timings as best as I can be, because and we'll do our best to make sure everybody's happy with that regard. Because it's hard to estimate it. But anyway, so my point is that sometimes people don't want to include packing services because it does increase on the cost, because it's going to take more hours. It just depends on the client, really, and the circumstances of the job. But it is something that we do offer as well. And then we offer junk removal services, and we also have cleaners now, so we can basically start to finish. Like we just did a job out in Peachland a couple days ago, and it was an estate sale job, and there was stuff left everywhere in the house, hadn't been touched for like 2 years because people never got around to it for whatever reason. And it was we took 2 days. It was a 19-hour job, and we went in there and we loaded up both of our moving trucks full of junk, stuff that just had to go, just had to get out of there. So we took it all away. That involved some packing because the kitchen was full of stuff. We had to get everything, even like the fridge still had food in it. So we had to just take the fridge away because it was trash, right? So we did that, and then we pressure washed the outside of the house, and we made the house now presentable to be listed and sold, right? Because it wasn't like, and we took before and after pictures, and so that's a little bit different of that's kind of what it's turned into, you know what I mean? We've kind of opened up these avenues, and we also had a cleaner come in and clean the house there as well. So in addition to moving,
that's great.
Yeah.
One of the stressful things about moving is there's so many things you got to take care of.
Yeah.
And what time should the cleaners show up? And
right.
You guys as movers don't want the cleaners climbing on top of you.
Exactly.
But we'd like them to come as soon as you're finished with that room.
Yeah.
So if you're coordinating all of it, that's super
exactly
helpful.
it. That's my theory too, is if we can be a one-stop shop, then especially for realtors, it'll make easy for you guys, right? Because we can take care of it. And then also we've set up some infrastructure for items that are still useful. So what I'm referring to is if we have a client who is downsizing, for example, and they have stuff that's like nice stuff, and they just don't want it anymore, they don't need it, we'll go in and we'll move them into their new place, and we'll take away whatever they don't want to, and what we'll do with the stuff is we'll actually donate it and deliver it to the Canadian Mental Health Association. So we made an association with them, or a partnership with them, I guess it was almost 2 years ago now. And so what we do is they provide housing for people who are at risk or homeless or all sorts of things. Basically, if you're hard up, if you're in like a rough spot in life, you can go and you can apply to be a client of the Mental Health Association, and they will do their best to make sure that you're kept off the street. So they have properties all over town. They buy up places and they provide it to these people. But so then you get somebody, like I've dealt with clients. It's pretty interesting actually. Like I've dealt with clients who have been on the street for years, and now they've finally decided to go and get help with the Mental Health Association, and they'll provide them with a house. But then they have nothing, so they're living in a box in squalor with no bed and no dresser and no couch. And so that's where we come in, because we actually take these couches and these dressers from these people who are downsizing or whatever, and then we deliver them to the Mental Health Association's clients. Mm-hmm. So the items are getting repurposed. And they'll take a lot of stuff. There's been times where I thought that the items would be garbage because they look too old and too rickety. But I mean, if you put it into the perspective of like a couch is better than no couch, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So often they'll take these items and they're very thankful. And
sure.
So last year we did that over 100 times. We actually delivered furniture over 100 times to different clients of the CMHA. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of a nice thing. People, I think, like to know that their items are going to be reused and not be just taken to the landfill. You know what I mean? So
yeah, definitely. How do you get most of your clients? Is it mostly repeat business, word of mouth at this point?
It's changed a little bit. When I started, and I still do this, but I had this idea for years that I would commit an hour a day at least to marketing the business. And one thing that I found to be the most effective, which I don't do as much anymore because of circumstances, but what I would actually do is I would go and I would find houses that have for sale signs and have sold signs, and I just knock on the door. Literally, I'd just knock on the door, and the people would answer the door, and I would give them my card, and talk about my business. And often it worked really well because they're going to need movers anyway. And I've now come to them and volunteered the services. So that was really how I got the business off the ground, was just spending time every day going door to door, like not door to door, but just to houses that I see for sale signs or sold signs on. And literally just knocking on the door and chatting them up and explaining what we do. And people, I think, appreciated the initiative because you know that they're going to need the service anyway. You know what I mean? You know they're going to need it if the house, especially if it has a sold sign on it, you know they're going to need movers most likely, especially, you know what I mean? And so that was how I started acquisitions or acquiring jobs. And I found it to be effective, but it's a lot of work. You're going out and it's a lot of work. And then as time goes on, I started to do work for other realtors as well. And I've got a handful of, we've gotten lots of repeat business. There's been realtors that have been really great for us and used us all the time. And there's been other realtors who just used us once. And that's, it is what it is. But the more realtors that we know, and the more realtors that know what we do and know that we'll try our best to do it to the best of our abilities, I find that's going to be the biggest generator for us. Absolutely.
Definitely. Well, we'll definitely get this episode out to all the realtors. So your mom, myself, we're part of a realtor private group on Facebook. Yes. So I can post the link to this and let people know you're a great guy. Hey?
For sure. And we just, it's obviously it's about making money, but I really do think that Kelowna is just such a great place to live. And not only because of the stuff that everybody talks about, like the lake, and the ski hills and all the nature and stuff, because that stuff's awesome. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But I've just felt so much warmth from the community over the years in terms of people being like, wow, like, good job, good initiative, let me give you a chance. Like, people are really awesome here for that. And I don't think it's like that all over the world, so I think it's a really great opportunity to pursue entrepreneurial stuff here. You know what I mean? And I feel lucky to have what little business I have, really. You know what I mean?
I love to interview young people who are ambitious because I wish, in hindsight, I did things differently. What sort of advice would you give to someone who's 21 and wants to get into business for themselves?
Sure. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I have, I guess a big thing would be to have confidence in yourself. Like, a lot of people have this idea that, things are going to fail and then you'll get one hiccup, and they'll pull out of the idea because, now they're worried that things are going wrong. And I think like a really good piece of, like, I have like 4 guys that are 21 that work for me. And so I'm always talking to them about stuff. And a lot of people, you have to roll with it. Like, things are going to not go exactly as you plan. It's inevitable. And if you set yourself up in a way that if something doesn't go properly, it's going to overwhelm you to the point where you don't want to do it anymore. That's going to happen. You're going to get curveballs. And so I think, like, don't let things stop you. Like, if you have an idea and you want to do it, you gotta you just got to take the hits, you know what I mean, and learn from them. I've made lots of mistakes, you know what I mean, and dealt with repercussions and, you know, pissed off clients and things of that nature.
Like, and what are you talking about? Did you drop a piece of furniture?
Yeah, it's happened. We've scratched walls, you know, things like that. You get people that are, you know, in a high stress environment. So it's it happens, and you just gotta like know that just because you had a hiccup doesn't mean that you're a failure. You know what I mean? You still you keep going and just keep going. You know?
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about texting, because I get a lot of texts from you. We've got a special going on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you have a list and manually like type in everybody's name, or do you have a service that does that?
Yeah.
If you can tell us.
Absolutely. That is a primitive marketing tactic that I have been using, and then recently we now have a marketing team behind us that takes care of a lot of things. So that was basically the best tactic that I could come up with is to text realtors that I've either worked for in the past or rubbed shoulders with one way or another, because we don't want to annoy people by texting them, but we do want to remain relevant, you know what I mean? And just remind them that we're around, because I do think that like one thing is that we kind of are different than other moving companies, being that we offer junk removals and things like that. So it was kind of a tactic for me to just keep the idea of our business in the back of people's minds who matter, like, because realtors are really everything to movers, and that's not something that people don't realize. Like, other moving companies don't do that. They just market. But I mean, you pay my bills, really, because you have the clients. I can get one good realtor can get us enough work. You know what I mean? Like, it's easier or you can get more done by reaching out to realtors. So I guess the thought process behind that whole texting campaign was, number one, to get the information to realtors and remain relevant. And then number two, you can see that there's, I think, because I did like a group text, and it's like 25 realtors that we've dealt with in the past. So the hope is that people will, like realtors, if they saw that there was 25 other realtors that this has all been sent to, you know, if you guys chose to communicate about us, you would know that, you know, we're not just like, you know, we have done, because now we've been doing it for 6 years or whatever, and we did like, you know, over 100 moves last year. So over time, you know, we've made a lot of connections and a lot of a lot of responses. So
yeah, I think it's brilliant, because a lot of times we forget, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, okay, there's a move, we got to arrange a move, and but if we get that text, it's like, oh yeah, you got to try Brett, right?
Yeah, totally.
So I think it's really a great idea.
That's good.
Is that how you prefer to be contacted? If someone listening to this show wants to get in touch with you, is that the best way? Texting? Or do you have a website, or what do you prefer?
I'm easy. Text is great. Phone calls are great. We also have a website. It's www.brettandbuddies.com. Okay. And on that website, you can inquire for a service on there. There's a little template, and that's honestly the most efficient way, because what happens is it'll ask you, what services do you need? How many bedrooms is your place? What are the addresses? And so the result is that if you submit it, I get an email with all the information that I need right there.
Yeah.
And so then I will just call the client and confirm that we're on the same page on everything. And then once that's happened, then I just forward it to my guys through Google Calendar. And so that's the most efficient, is to go through the website. But I've been running all that infrastructure was just put up in the last 6 months. And prior to that, I was just running through phone calls and text messages and things like that. So, I mean, a preferred method, I would say the easiest method is to go through the website, but we're easy. You can call us. Most people call us still.
Yeah.
You can text
so we'll
us.
put links to
whatever.
all of that, and it's
Yeah.
pretty cool with the podcast. We can put your phone number in there. Person
Yeah.
can click, and it will dial you. A lot of times,
Great.
people are listening
cool.
to us when they're driving.
Yeah.
So they can't really, fill out a form or anything like that, but they can push a button and get you
Yeah.
on the phone or send you a
Totally.
text,
Totally.
So we'll put links to all of it. So,
Great. That's awesome.
yeah. And last question I got for you, Brett. Who would you like to nominate? So we've really grown this show through the nominations. Cool. Someone that you would enjoy listening to me interview on the show. That's
sure.
It.
Cool. Yeah. Well, that's a big question. I got a lot of people in the back of my mind. Oh man, interesting people that I think. Some people that come to my mind off the top of my head. I mean, obviously, I could name 10 realtors that I think are really great and I think have a lot to say and would be really helpful. But I think to take it a different route, I've got some friends who, one would be Jeff Piatelli. Jeff Piatelli, he's an old friend of mine and he's a musician in town here. And he's doing amazingly. He's doing really well. Just playing music, he's made a good living for himself, and he's really talented. And I like to get together and play music with him. And I'm sure he would be a great guy to
Sounds
get out
great.
here. Yeah, he would be cool. He's really quite a smart guy and really amazing, talented musician. Really
Cool.
great. Another one. I got a few.
Give me 2 or 3.
Yeah, Todd Davies. He might be a little camera shy, but he's the best mechanic you'll ever meet. He's an incredible backyard mechanic. His dad was friends with my dad, and that's how I got to know him.
Cool.
And he is just, you'll never see somebody who's more talented with fixing. He'll fix anything.
Awesome.
He's been a lifesaver for me because I do a lot of buying and selling of vehicles and stuff like that. And he is just makes your life so much easier. He's really great for that. Yeah, he kills it. And he's got a shop, runs out of his house, and he's always, I'm blown away with the amount of work that guy does. It's incredible.
That's awesome. We can do these without the camera, just so you know. So we're not recording the video, but it's just helpful for us to see each other because I used to do it at this desk with the person coming here sitting across from me. But the
cool.
sound quality with this software is really great. So sorry to use it more often. Glad we got it working finally.
Yeah, me too. For sure. This is awesome. I think it's a good thing.
So Jeff Piatelli and Todd Davies.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
You don't have to.
No, I don't mind. I like to network. Well, in the realty world, there's been a couple people that have been really great. Josh Mikolasik. I'd probably nominate him. He's a young guy that's been just killing it lately. And he's been very helpful to us. He's gotten us lots of work, and
great guy.
He's a great guy. Every client's really stoked on him. Others, I could go all day with realtors. I could go all day because I want
to interview Josh because I love interviewing top realtors and especially young ones who have figured this out.
Yeah,
totally. I like interviewing old guys too because they tell you all the mistakes they made and stuff like that. But
that's cool for sure.
I really get motivated to interview young people who are just killing it, in business.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. Jeremy Weiss is another one. He's got an excavating company, Weiss Excavating. He's doing really good. I think he was nominated for the Kelowna Now Entrepreneur of the Year or something. And he's, as far as I know, he's been doing really well. He's a young guy. He's 24 and he's slaying it, just working every day, it seems like. So
beautiful.
Making stuff happen.
That's awesome. So if those 4 people agree to come on the show, and if they nominate 2 people each, that's 8 people I'm going to get to meet and pick their brain. And I always learn something from every show. And it's a great story you got, Brett. I'm going to try to help promote your business. And certainly I'll keep you in mind for future clients.
Great.
Which is great. I've got a client moving from Toronto, and I know she's got a truck, but it just gets dropped off.
Yeah, we can
So
provide
I think
the
she's
labor.
gonna need, yeah.
That's not a worry. Yeah, we've got a crew of 6 guys right now. And so we do jobs like that quite often. We have our own trucks as well, but often people will get like sea cans dropped off, and they just need, whatever. Like the other, and we also do. I should also put out there that we do exceptionally large item moves, like hot tubs, pianos, pool tables, things of that nature. That's another market that we've gotten into, and it's keeping us pretty busy as well. So
Good to know.
pretty much anything in the moving world, we want to help out, and we want to make it easy for everybody.
Awesome. Thanks for your time today, Brett, and thanks for your patience getting this new software figured out. I really appreciate it.
Me too. And, I appreciate it.
Hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
You as well. Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it. We'll see you again.
It's been great. Bye.
Okay. Take care.